Hey, you guys, it's Denise Walsh here, and today we are talking all things time management. This is a conversation that so many people have asked me about because they're telling me things like, I have big dreams, like, I know what I want, I'm excited about what I'm working on, but I just don't stinking have time. I don't have time or energy at the end of the day to add one more thing to my plate. So they're asking me, and I want to know if this is you, but that's me in the comments. They're asking for tangible, practical ways to hit your goals. Uh, Feeling easy, like having it feel fun, not having it feel as hard as sometimes it can feel. So if that is you, if you've been asking for this training, I would love for you to comment below. I am going to share it into a few groups right now, and then we will dive right in. Sorry, I can't think and type at the same time. Okay, here we go. Post. All right. Hello. Hi, Tasha. Welcome. Okay, so let's talk through this. Time management. What does this mean, and why is this important? Well, first of all, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And yet, sometimes those 24 hours go really fast and we seem to go nowhere, or those 24 hours seem to go slow and we're like dragging our heels, our energy's down, we're stressed, we're overwhelmed, and we're going in no direction, right? It's like one step forward, two steps back, we're spinning our wheels. Nothing ever seems to move the needle in our business. And so today, what I'm going to do is share with you my VGA goal setting strategy that I personally use and I teach my clients so that they can get that big vision, like that big idea out of their head onto the calendar and into the world. Now, I'll share with you my story, and then as we go, I'm going to share with you a few stories from clients on how they have been able to implement the strategy. So let me know if this is something you are excited to learn. Put I'm excited in the comments. So for me, I've experienced several pieces of success in my life, right? I've run marathons, I've done bodybuilding competitions. I hit the top of our company and stayed there for 10 years. I started a podcast, I wrote a book, like all these things that are moving the needle in my life. But there were times when I would say I want something, I would say it, but I would do nothing different. And so for years, I said, I'm going to write a book. I can't wait. I'm going to write a book. And people would tell me, like, what is it about? When is it going to be done? Tell me more. And I'd say, well, I'm going to write it in the nooks and crannies of my day, just when I have any random time. And as you can imagine, I never wrote a book. Like for years, I would just think, oh, when I have some time, I'll sit down and just, spit out a book. Well, guess what happened? Life, laundry, picking up kids from school. Like I had all these other things that felt easier than doing the heavy lifting of actually sitting down to write a book. And so I never did it. It wasn't until I implemented this VGA goal setting strategy that I finally got my book out into the world. And it's because of this right here. So Lisa's excited. Tasha's excited. Awesome. Well, let me go ahead and share my screen and we will dive right in. So here's the deal, you guys. I want this to be a bit interactive. So if you are able to grab a pen and a paper, I'm going to ask you some questions and I really want you to actually do it, right? I want you to do the things I'm asking you to do, because this isn't just about me like giving you thoughts. This is really about you implementing what I share. So the first thing that we talk about in VGA goal setting strategy is V. V is for vision. And the reason why vision is so important is because of this GPS setting that it does in our system. If we don't really know where we're going or what we want, guess what? We are not going to get it. And so this first step is key, because what it's doing is it's triggering your reticular activating system to go find that solution, the solution to the problem you're trying to solve. It is setting your internal GPS and your internal target. You guys know when a plane goes off course, its internal, its GPS is locked in to the destination. And so even if wind happens or a storm or something, it veers off course, it automatically corrects because its destination is locked in. That's kind of what we want to do here with vision. We want to tell our body where we want to go. We want to create a clear picture of what it is that we want. And what I find is sometimes this is tricky. People are like, oh, I don't know what I want. All I know is I don't want to be here anymore. Let me know if that's you in the comments. And so at our retreats and in our exercises that we do as a community, we help you to gain this vision and figure out what it is that you want next so you can create a clear vision for yourself. So, step one is to have that vision. What do you want in 5 years? What do you want in 3 years? What would your ideal family look like? Your ideal health, your ideal relationships, hobbies, business, career, bank account? Like, if you were to rate it a 10, right? What would that really look like for you? V is all about getting rid of any glass ceiling and saying something like, what do I really want? What do I really want life to look like? And create a vision of your future that makes you excited to get there. G is all about goals. And this is when we take that big vision and we say, all right, what is one 90-day goal that's going to help me move the needle in this particular area? I believe that you can live a Dream 10 life in all areas at the same time, but I don't believe you work on them at the same time. I think you really have to hone in and focus one at a time. And then A is all about actions. So action is the daily action you're taking in order to get to where you want to go. So for example, with my book, I had a vision of writing a book. I had set a goal. I had a goal date. Then I had to reverse engineer from there. I wrote my book in 3 months, a chapter a week. And I created accountability by choosing a coach that I met with every single week and helped me work through the chapters. I had a deadline. I reverse engineered it. It was a very clear goal. I had accountability. And then the action was, what am I doing on a day-to-day basis to actually make this happen? And we'll talk through how to really take that big idea and put it on your calendar as we go. I'd love to hear from you. What do you think is the trickiest part for you? Is it vision? Is it goals? Is it the action and staying consistent? What is it for you? Tasha says working in 90 to 100-day spurts is what you're learning. Yeah, focuses. Absolutely. So vision, this is your big butt life vision. Think about where you want to be in 5 to 10 years or even potentially at retirement. So I want you to spend a little bit of time doing this. I'm going to ask you to write down in your notebook your specific area of life that you really want to move the needle in, if it's health or business or family or finances. What area of life are you going to really hone in on over the next 90 days? And then think about your dream 10 in that area. What would life look like if this were a 10? What would life look like if your business were a 10? What would life look like if your family was a 10? Like, what would life look like if you woke up in the morning and when you're like, yes, this is what I've been praying for? How will you know? What will you be doing? What will you be thinking? Where will you be living? Like, let's get so crystal clear. That's why this is vision, because it's not just an action to do, check it off. It's a feeling, it's an environment, it's you embodying where you want to go and who you want to be. Tasha says breaking down the goals into smaller size chunks is a struggle. So, okay, so you're a vision girl. So it's easier for you to where you want to go, but the consistency in the same direction is the tricky part. Awesome. Okay, Lisa said the tricky part for her is action. That's similar. Yeah, the action, the consistency in the same direction. Okay, cool. We'll work through that for sure. Good. So think through this. And of course, I'll give you time. I'll just kind of chit chat for a minute so you can go through and tell you a bit about Vani, who wrote her book by utilizing the VGA goal setting strategy. She'd been thinking about writing a book for quite a while. She knew she wanted to get her message out into the world, but it wasn't until she set the goal, her 90-day project, and then the actions that went towards it that allowed her to actually get it done. So a goal is your 90-day project or next step. And goals need to be specific. Again, this isn't just lose weight or write a book or promote in my company or whatever. This is like, I'm going to gather 3 teammates. I am going to find 3 new clients. I'm going to launch 90-day U-turn. I'm going to, for Vani, it was get her book out into the world. I'm going to finish my book and self-publish on Amazon. It's a specific goal that at the end of the 3 months, it did or did not happen. And as I mentioned, you want to pick one main focus at a time and create these SMART goals. Give yourself a deadline and be really specific about what you're working towards. The other interesting thing to think about is making it something you can control. So this is in your power, right? So a couple things is, my goal is not to say my son will clean his room every day before school because I don't have control over that, right? That's not necessarily a goal that I can physically do because it's about my son. And so we want to make sure that we've got goals about that you can control. So maybe less about closings and like closing rates on businesses, like maybe team members. Let me say this 2 ways. Less about how many people actually close and more about the work you're going to do to get there. Okay. So that's another way to think about this. Instead of saying, I'm going to sign up 4 clients, what if we said, I'm going to reach out to 15 to 20 people a day? I'm going to become a follow-up queen, right? I'm going to do this action that's going to take me to my goal. And that's how you know you're going to get there. So the goal is about one thing. It's a SMART goal. It's specific. It's got an end date. But this is where you guys have said this is the tricky part, consistency, the action. And then Veronica says, absolutely right. Carving out daily and having a date. Yes, this is the most important part. What are you going to do during those time slots that's going to move the needle? We know you're not going to write a book in the nooks and crannies of your day. We know you're not going to do anything harder outside your comfort zone in the nooks and crannies of your day. You're not going to be sitting at your son's baseball game going, oh, I should probably follow up with leads right now, if that doesn't feel normal or natural to you. You are most likely not going to do the hard things, the things that are going to grow your comfort zone, unless they're on your calendar. So for this action piece of VGA goal setting is, what are the daily actions you need to take in order to hit your 90-day goal? And then this is what we do. We brain dump it. We brain dump it. So we brain dump all the things you're normally doing. Okay. So write this down right now. What are some of the things you do in a typical week that revolve around your family, your kids, your house, all the things that are like normal, everyday stuff? Getting ready for work, going to work, like all the things you need to do. Okay. Brain dump all of that. Get it on paper. Even if you don't need to put get ready for work on your calendar, it goes on your calendar, right? You already do it. It's part of your habit. But in this exercise, we want to give it a time slot. So brain dump all of life's daily activities. Get it on paper. Next, we brain dump all of the actions associated with your dream life goal, this 90-day goal. If you're working towards your business, it could be generating leads on social media or in person, networking events, following up, messaging, calling, texting. It could be working with your organization. If you're in network marketing, it could be working with your clients, putting those coaching calls on the calendar, personal development, leadership development, etc. Like, what are all the things you need to do? If your goal is to write a book, obviously writing book on calendar means a lot of things. So you need to talk about researching your specific topics, outlining your life, finding a few key stories that you really want to talk about. And then each week you would say working on chapter 1, researching chapter 1. And when you sit down to work on book, you know exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it. So before you brain dump life, okay? And then you brain dump all of the actions towards your dream life goal. When I was doing bodybuilding competitions, the actions towards my dream life goal would be my morning cardio, my afternoon weights, meal prepping, and that was really it. It's like, I guess eating your meals is part of it, but you eat every 3 hours. You want to be mindful. I had to prepare and bring it with me, know where you are when you're going to eat. And so you want to just have all of that on your calendar. So then it actually gets done. Okay, so next, this isn't again something that I think most people don't do and really needs to get done if you're going to move the needle on your goals. We want to rank those actions, rank them. So number 1 needs to be me, and it helps me reach my goals. Whoop, whoop, put it on the calendar. Number 2 does not need to be me, but does need to get done. So this could be cleaning the house. It could be driving the kids to school. It could be, there could be things that need to happen, but maybe it's something you could ask for help with from a spouse, from a mom, from a neighbor, where it doesn't need to be you all the time. Number 3 doesn't need to get done and doesn't need to be me. So stop doing it or let go of it. So this we did a lot of during our business building years, when we realized that although I enjoyed volleyball on Tuesdays, it wasn't helping me reach my goals. Although I enjoyed being a youth group leader at that time, it wasn't helping me reach my goals. And I had to say no to something good to say yes to something great. This is when we set boundaries. And we said, this is not helping me reach my goals. Therefore, the answer is no. I learned to say no, thank you, much more quickly during the bodybuilding days, because I would say, going to a 3-hour meal with wine and appetizers and bread and all these things is not going to help me reach my goal. So I'm probably not going to go. Or I need to get in my extra cardio tonight. I'm going to leave early. I need to do the things that are taking me where I want to go. So if we know where we want to go and we know the actions that we need to take in order to get there, those become non-negotiable and other things get to be pushed aside. And then we get to decide who does it. So if it's me, if it's a spouse, if it's a mother, if it's a family member or a neighbor or a cleaning lady or whoever, a VA, a virtual assistant, if it's whatever. And then we also want to give it a time slot. Now, this is an example of a couple calendars. So this is my calendar. One example left is when I was working, and then the other example is when I was full-time in my business. But as you can see, everything has a time slot. Work out, get my morning reading done, like my morning routine, get ready for school, take the boys to school, get ready to work. And then even during work, I had some specific times where I was working towards my business. I would send messages at lunch or call, because back in this day, we were calling people. I would call people during lunch and I would call people on my drive home. And what I found is that it helped me make progress. Like I would be more excited to keep going when I got home because I had gotten the momentum going versus coming home and crashing because I was so tired. So I made it a point to do a few things while I was at work because I found that kept me excited and gave me energy to keep working on things when I got home. An example on the right is, I had a presentation to do. So I had to put work on the presentation. I had a few podcasts. I have to put in lunch, you guys, or else I don't eat, right? This is charting or connecting, moving customers, connecting with the people who are saying yes. And then I even have my boys and laundry house stuff in the calendar too. Why is this important? Because what I have found for me, at least my schedule, and you can let me know what works for you, is that if I'm doing house stuff, when the boys are home, they're older now, 10 and 13, I can clean, make dinner, do laundry while they're around. And I know that my work time's at work, that my boy time's at, like I'm being mom when I'm being mom. And I don't need to have this mom guilt or comparisonitis or feeling like I shoulda, coulda, would have done something different because I know everything has a time slot. I know that I'm working on my business during this time. So then guess what? When I'm being a mom, I'm not thinking about my business. Or when I'm working on my business, I'm not thinking about how I could, woulda be doing other things. We're in the moment. We're enjoying it. We are working through the schedule and giving ourselves the grace to be present, knowing that laundry will get done because it's on the calendar. All of the, you know what I mean? It's just the goal here is to not wish you were doing something else when you're doing the thing you're doing, right? It's really all about being present in the moment. Veronica says, yes, those of us who are type A, this works great. And I agree. This is probably comes much more easily to a type A or linear processed person. So for those who are type B, I'm very interested in what works for you. I've heard people say just having like a max 3 to-do list, where as long as they get those 3 things done during the day, then that really helps them. But share with us what works for you as you are figuring out your calendar. What I think happens most times is that people have too much going on. They are, instead of they're not able to focus on one thing at a time because they have way too many plates happening. And so too many goals focused on you know what I mean? You're working on too many things. And so they don't have enough time in your day. You literally don't, because you have too much going on. And so that's really where prioritizing comes in key, because we want to say no to the things that are currently not taking us where we want to go. Too much, too often. Yes, Lisa, exactly it. And the thing to consider is, are we saying yes to these things because we feel like we should, or are we saying yes to these things because we really want to and they're helping us move the needle, right? Habit stacking, absolutely. Yes, routines are the only way I can stay consistent. So the cool thing about having that action in the calendar is that it starts to become normal. If you have listened to podcast in your calendar on the way to work, guess what? That becomes normal. If you're listening to podcasts while you're getting ready in the morning, or you are following up with leads while you are making dinner, like you are layering it, habit stacking, as Tasha mentioned, helps you to actually consistently do it because you're pairing it with something you're already doing, which makes it much, much easier. Oh, Lisa says too much and procrastination. So that's an interesting thing to think about. Let's talk a bit about procrastination. One of the reasons why, in my opinion, we procrastinate is because it feels hard. Like it feels like a learning curve. It feels like we're up against our comfort zone, and it's way easier to just go whoop, back to what deemed normal. Like this feels like a whole thing to learn. We're bumping up, we get anxiety, we second guess ourselves, we wonder if it's possible, we are insecure, and so we snap back. And so if that's you, and you have a harder time getting started because it feels so big and overwhelming, this is when that action step will help you out a ton. Let's take that action and break it into even smaller bite-sized pieces. So a couple things to think about. If you're learning Reels or Instagram, like put on your calendar, Google how to make Instagram Reels. There's tons of tutorials everywhere, right? And so you don't have to make 3 Reels today, but you could say, let's bring it down. Let's bring it like to even smaller bite-sized pieces. Google making Reels. Google how do I do the voiceover? How do I, you know what I mean? Like, research is a part of your to-do list. Research how blah 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 blah. Okay? And so before you go to make 3 Reels today, let's learn how to make Reels on the calendar. Practice, and then one step at a time. So my guess is procrastination is because it feels too big. and it feels hard. Like it's a learning curve. We don't know how to do it. And so what we want to do is put research on the calendar, learn how to do it one step at a time. The cool thing is, you guys, is that we all are learnable. Like everything is learnable. Everything is figure outable. It's possible for you to learn new brain cells and to grow new brain cells to learn a new skill, no matter how old you are. And so when you bump up against your comfort zone like that, remind yourself of this. This is just new. It's a learning curve. It always gets easier. And let me put learning how to do it on the calendar. So when you go to do it, it feels much, much more possible. So what questions do you guys have? What do you think about the VGA goal setting strategy? What actions do you need to put on your calendar today so that way you start moving the needle in your business or towards your goals? Staying consistent. Okay, Tasha. So another thing let's talk about is staying consistent. So putting on your calendar is one thing. How many of you put it on your calendar and still don't do it? Yeah, I know. So putting it on your calendar is step one. That's accountability for you. Oh, it's 2:00. It's time to, yeah. Liz says me. Beth says, oh, you listen. Oh, Beth. Yay. Beth said she just recently listened to a podcast from 2022, a couple years old. That's awesome. And so if you put stuff on your calendar and you don't do it, again, think about if it's too big of a bite and maybe it needs to be bite-sized. Think about that. The other thing is to consider is accountability. So do you have an accountability buddy? Do you have a community that you're in that's going to ask you about it? Are you showing up to those communities? Who in your life is holding you accountable? And it could be a friend, it could be a coaching cohort, it could be your team. But having the external accountability is really helpful too, because we will do way more when we know somebody is watching and they're going to ask us about it. Yeah. So find what motivates you. Maybe you have found that you're motivated in a different way. And so you kind of want to set up your life in a way that works for you and the systems that work for you. One last thing I'll share is I had a coach one time who said that she really wanted to write a book. This was something she'd been saying she wanted to do for years. She was not doing it. So she hired somebody to sit on Zoom with her during her writing hours. She said, all right, I know that I will show up to this appointment and I will write. And she didn't have the girl do anything besides sit there and hold her accountable to doing the thing. If it's hard, you guys, we will always shrink back to what we understand, to what we deem normal. And that's normal for us to do. So what we want to do instead is counteract that by creating a strategy that works for us. Yeah. Isn't that fascinating, Beth? She booked a VA to meet with her for 3 hours a day or 3 times a week or whatever it was so she could get this book out. And she finally wrote it. And it didn't have to take as long as it took her years thinking about it, but in execution, she figured she got it done in 3 months because of the extra accountability. But she knew how she worked. She knew she would show up to this meeting. She wasn't going to cancel on her. That lady was expecting her to show up. And so she decided to create that accountability for herself. Let's see. Oh, yes. Smart thinking. Beth says, I make my workspace happy and do a lot outside. Smart. Yes. One of my new habits is after I'm done with work for the day, I go outside and I sit on our super cozy, nice chair and I make my reels for the next day, because it feels fun. Tasha says she is motivated by vacations. Awesome. And then you reverse engineer, right? That vacation. Liz says in the ADHD world, it's called body doubling. Oh, cool. Very cool. And again, I think it's about knowing how you work. When you know how you work, you can set yourself up for success. So if you don't know how you work, think back to a time when you did hit your goal. Think back to a time when you accomplished something, when you finished something, when you did it well, and what was the supports in that arena that helped you to finish at that time. Ooh, Tasha says, I body doubled with my friend today. It helped her so much. Awesome. Would you say this is like a power hour kind of thing where you got on Zoom and we're just working together? Yeah. We will get so much more done when we do it in community, won't we? I love that. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so VGA, goal setting strategy. Set your internal GPS. What is your vision? What is your 90-day goal that's going to move the needle towards your vision? And then what are the actions you need to do on a daily basis in order to make it happen? Get those actions on the calendar. And if you literally feel like you have no time, then maybe it's time to say no to some good things for now so you can say yes to something great and make your priority an actual priority. Awesome. Well, I hope that this was helpful, you guys. I plan to go live every single Monday around 2 p.m. Eastern in the free Become a Dream Life Coach group, as well as on my YouTube channel and other places. So be sure to stop in, put it on your calendar, say hi. And next week, we're going to be talking about the science behind self-sabotage. So have an awesome, awesome day, you guys. We'll see you next week.